Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
1, 1, 2. Check me out right here, yo.
Yo, the sun don't shine forever, but as long as it's here, then we might as well shine together.
Welcome into the Bob Sullivan Show here on latenightsportsradio.com. I am joined here in hour number 1 by Jordan Buscarini, host of Drive Time Sports on KOAL AM 750 and 103.9 FM. Jordan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, Bob. How about yourself?
I have no complaints. I know, there's some things to complain about in the world during the Olympics. One of them has to be Brian Lochte and his made-up story.
Yeah.
What did you make of that whole thing? And, a lot of people were acting like he didn't get enough, like, he got too much credit when the story initially came out. I felt like there was more questioning the story right from the get-go than there was anything else. Like I don't know anybody that was really buying into that story from the get-go. Did you?
No, I definitely didn't. In fact, on my show, which airs 7 days a week, when the news broke, my co-host called it out immediately. So there's just not enough information here for me to actually believe this. And when he said that, you know what, that's a fair point. There's really not. However, who am I to question someone who claims they had a gun pointed to their head? The big problem here was that Ryan Lochte never really anticipated this story blowing up to this extent. Again, you'd have to go back to he told his mom this. He told his mom, basically making up a story, and before you know it, it kind of balloons out. I will say this: it was the most bizarre story since Manti Te'o, hands down. The most bizarre, the nationally, how the national audience kind of gravitated towards the story. It was the most bizarre thing that I have ever seen since the Te'o story broke a couple of years ago.
Yeah, the funny thing is that the Te'o one, that took a while for that to be figured out. Like, it took a couple of mystery people to send emails to, I think it was like TJ Quinn or somebody at ESPN that was like, hey, you should look into this. And then somebody started looking into it, and it was found out to be made up. And this one was kind of snuffed out from the beginning, which was, it was kind of surprising. Like, it was immediately suspicious when the IOC was like, we're not going to confirm this right away. And as soon as they, not that they're the most trustworthy people in the world, but that just seemed a little fishy that they were denying it happened from the get-go.
Yeah, agreed. It was it was a bizarre story from the beginning. It's unfortunate because instead of talking about Ryan Lochte's career, and again, let's not get things twisted. This is not a kid. This is a 32-year-old man. This is a man. This isn't a kid that made up the story that just ballooned out of control. Before you know it, Ryan Lochte is telling multiple lies. And unfortunately, we're not talking about Ryan Lochte's career anymore, which was very successful. Unfortunately for him, he had to, he was coming up in a time frame where Michael Phelps, one of the greatest athletes in the history of our time, was coming up in the sport. Otherwise, we're talking about Ryan Lochte having one of the most successful swimming careers in U.S. history. So this will be tied to his career forever. Just a bizarre story. Bizarre. There's really no other way to explain it.
Mm-hmm. Well, looking at the Olympics, now there's talk, ESPN's NBC's ratings were down for the Olympics, and people talking about ways to fix it. Is there a way to fix it, or, how is the Olympics going to, draw in more of an audience? I'm surprised that there isn't enough of an audience, because Summer Olympics is way better than the Winter. I get why Winter Olympic ratings are down, but Summer, there's a lot to choose from. There's a lot more storylines to get behind, and I even find myself rooting for people from other countries more so than in the Winter. What do you think the fix is for NBC with this?
I don't know if you can fix it. This is a really interesting question because, we were actually talking on my show this past week of the 20-year anniversary of Michael Johnson. Can't believe that was 20 years ago when Michael Johnson pretty much captivated the entire world with his performance in Atlanta in '96, winning the 2 and the 4. You had a similar storyline this year with Michael Phelps, and I think that was a storyline that kind of pulled the Olympics, that pushed the Olympics in the first half. And when Michael Phelps was finished, I think a lot of people were like, okay, what now? It's like going to a concert and being more excited for the opening act than the closing act. And I think that has a lot to do with the second half of the Olympics, this last week of the Olympics. USA basketball, it's been very entertaining. There's been a lot of fun storylines there. Of course, Kevin Durant playing with Draymond Green and Klay Thompson. Look, he's been the best player out on the court through this, through the entire Olympics, running with the basketball program. And then you had Usain Bolt, and I think Usain Bolt not being from the United States of America definitely drops the ratings a little bit here in this country. But Michael Phelps was the big storyline, and that was at the very beginning of the Olympics. And it's unfortunate that not as many people got behind the Usain Bolt story, because that's the greatest runner that we have ever seen. So I don't know that you can fix it. I think there are plenty of storylines here in the Summer Games. I'm with you. I definitely enjoy the Summer Games a lot more than I enjoy the Winter Games. And I live in Utah. And, of course, the Winter Games came here in 2002, and so still a lot of people in the state of Utah love the Winter Games because we're known for our skiing in the winter and our snowboarding. But for me, it's the Summer Olympics. And I just think that, I guess, like I said, comparing it to a concert where the opening act is better than the closing act. And this go-around, it just so happened to be that I think everybody in this country was just glued to the TV when Michael Phelps was in the pool. And when that was over with, it was like, okay, what now?
I feel like they could do a better job staggering it, because it's swimming and gymnastics are done. And those are, basketball kind of goes through the whole thing, through the entire time. But, I mean, gymnastics and swimming, I feel like of the two sports that I watch and track, the three sports that I get into at Olympic time and pay no attention to ever, those are the three sports. And I think they could do a lot better job of staggering that.
I agree.
And, because you're done with swimming and gymnastics pretty much at the same time, and then all you have is track, which you want to see who the fastest man in the world is. But you don't really watch. You don't really watch the 1600. There's a lot of stuff that you watch in swimming. There's a lot more races that you watch in swimming than in track, because track, it's the 100-meter, a little bit of the 200-meter. But we didn't pay attention at all to the decathlon. And that guy's won it back-to-back Olympics. He won gold back-to-back Olympics. I don't even know his name. And then you got, shot put and discus and all that stuff. Hardly any of the track is even broadcast, and I don't get it, because that used to be the most exciting, with Mo Green and Michael Johnson in 2000. And that used to be the most exciting part of the Olympics was track. And now it's swimming and gymnastics. They got to stagger it a little better.
Stagger that a little bit, and I would not mind seeing, we were talking about basketball a moment ago. I would not mind seeing basketball kind of shortened, I guess is the word. I don't know that basketball needs to last all 14 days of the Olympics or 13 days of the Olympics. I think it does take away from some of the other sports just because there's so many names, nationally, globally, that people follow. And I think that could be something that would help out a little bit. I'm just not sure that certain events, especially this one in particular that has, people with global naming, it takes away from some of the other events when it lasts the entire time.
Mm. Well, you brought up an interesting thing. Let's talk a little bit about the basketball team. You brought up an interesting thing about how it's just considered it's just ridiculous to even question whether the 92 team could lose to any other dream team. And I definitely don't think this team would stand a shot. They'd probably come within 15 or 20, but I don't. 7-game series, they probably get swept. I don't know. The 2012 team I felt got a little bit more credit than it should have, because I thought if they would have been healthy, you would have had a healthy Chris Bosh, healthy Dwayne Wade, healthy D Rose, and even Andrew Bynum and Dwight Howard, who were the two best centers in the league at that time, versus Tyson Chandler. I felt like that team would have put up a pretty damn good fight against 92. Now, do they win in a 7-game series? Who knows? Who really cares? But the people who are arguing this are people who were 2 to 8, like hardly even remember the 92 Dream Team. Like, I have to watch highlights of it because I was only 2 when it happened. So what do people really know how good the 92 Dream Team was that are talking about that they could never lose to any of these other Dream Teams?
Well, no, they don't. And here's the thing that I always bring up with the 92 team. Look, that was the first year where professionals were allowed to represent Team USA in the Olympics. It has the greatest group of players ever assembled if they were in their prime. And this is something that I have to continue to bring up to people. Let's not forget that Larry Bird was well past his prime. Larry Bird his back was so screwed up at this particular time, he had a hard time getting up and down the court. Magic Johnson was a year removed from playing. Remember, he retired in 91 because of the HIV virus. The Olympics didn't take place until 92. So Magic was a year removed, and you'd be hard-pressed to find a bigger Magic Johnson fan than myself. But look, the fact is, Magic and Bird were not in their primes. Now, you take the 92 Dream Team with each of those players in their prime, oh, yeah, you got the greatest team ever assembled, hands down, and nobody touches that team. Unfortunately, I just don't believe that everybody on that particular team was in their prime, and that's something that you have to consider. Also, the competition. Anytime somebody brings up the margin of victory, it's hogwash. I don't care anything about it. It means absolutely nothing, because the best player playing against Team USA was Tony Kukoc. I mean, honestly, I don't know if you remember, Bob, you were talking about only being 2, so I doubt you do. But if you go back, that was the conversation. That was the guy that was bringing the most attention. And Scottie Pippen shut Tony Kukoc down. That was the matchup that everybody wanted to see because there was so much hype around this guy. So the competition level in 92 compared to where it's at today, it's not even close. The rest of the world is catching up. There's still a substantial gap, but the rest of the world is catching up. Now, as far as the importance of the 92 Dream Team, we'll never see a team that was more important to the game of basketball because that's when global branding picked up. That's when basketball became every country's sport of interest outside of soccer. So the importance of the 92 Dream Team, yes, you definitely can't argue that. By far the most important team ever assembled. Is it the greatest team at that time in those players' careers? I don't know. I think you can make an argument for the 2008 squad. I think you can make an argument for the 2012 squad. And another team that does not get a whole lot of pub for some reason, it was the 96 team. The Dream Team Part 2 did not get enough pub. So the greatest names ever assembled, absolutely. At that particular time in their career, I see some holes on that team. Not to say that they're not the greatest. I mean, it's a fair argument. But for some reason, I mean, there's just a lot of people where if you even question that somebody could beat that team, they're just completely flabbergasted. They have no idea why you could, insinuate something so stupid. So it's just one of those things. The story behind the 92 Dream Team will always push it forward, and because of it, that will always be the team that is considered the greatest team ever assembled.
Well, they wouldn't lose. They have Jordan on their team, and Jordan would never allow that team to lose. That's why they wouldn't lose. I'm mocking everybody that uses that as an excuse for why a Jordan team wouldn't lose to any team of this generation. One thing that we could take away from this team, and I don't know how big of a deal it is, but when asked about Kevin Durant or how he was going to adjust his game, and Klay Thompson on Kevin Durant coming in says, "I'm not going to change shit." What is your take on that? Did people make too big of a deal out of it? People not make big enough deal out of it? And my prediction was it was going to be Draymond Green and Ayesha Curry that were going to be the breakup of this team, not Klay Thompson.
Yeah, I don't take anything into that at all. I mean, we're still months away from the season. We're still just about 2 months away from seeing these guys on the court at the same time. And again, right now with this day and age with social media, you got to remember these guys constantly have a phone or a camera or a microphone in their face around every possible avenue. And I'm sure that Klay Thompson had been asked that question more times than he could possibly count. And there comes a certain time when, okay, let's talk a little bit about what we're here for in Rio. So I don't take anything away from that at all. I don't believe that team is going to suffer any form of gelling issues. I think they're going to be just fine. I think coming off of a loss to Cleveland. I don't read too much into it. I really don't. And I think that's why it wasn't a huge deal. That's why it wasn't ever the top headline story. For one, there's too much going on. And at the same time, we're still 2 months away from the regular season. So I think people can relax on that issue for a bit.
Is there a storyline that is coming out of this Olympics that you think is going to carry over into the NBA season?
That's a good question. Hopefully it's not the Brittany Griner DeMarcus Cousins topic, because that was absolutely ridiculous, and I'm glad Gino Arielmo put that to rest. The fact is that we had 11, I believe, 10 or 11 guys on this USA basketball team with max contracts, and they were pushed to the brink a couple of times during the Olympics, and I think that gives other countries hope going into 2020. This was supposed to be one of the best defensive assembled squads that we have had for the USA men's team in quite some time, and still they were, on the brink of giving up 100 points multiple times. So I think the main storyline is a lot of people are going to be looking forward to 2020. Maybe, just maybe, there's a country that could top Team USA, and I'm also curious to see LeBron James. If LeBron James comes back in 2020 or not, by the time we get around to those Olympics, he's going to be definitely in the latter stage of his career. He's not ruling out, playing in 2020. So once we get to 2019, that's going to be a real topic that I think a lot of people will be paying attention to, because again, LeBron James is the biggest star in the NBA. Then we talk about passing the torch. I don't necessarily care about talk like that, but if you look at the global branding aspect of it, you had Jordan, you had Kobe, now you have LeBron. And once LeBron gets towards the end of his career, I think a lot of people, globally are going to want to watch LeBron on one of the biggest stages, in the world. So that's going to be a topic to follow as well.
Well, who knows? He could be passing the torch to Ben Simmons if they beat the U.S. if Australia beats the U.S. in the gold medal game in 2020. I'm not saying that's going to happen. But
okay.
Australia is that team, though, that is probably going to be that. They got a good shot if Exum gets healthy, starts playing well. You got Simmons, Dellavedova, Patty Mills is getting up there in age. You got Bogut, who's not going to be in the games in 2020. Do you think Australia is that team that's going to, continue to rise and be that thorn in the U.S. side for the next couple Olympics?
It's tough to say. I'm shocked that they didn't even medal this go around. Like, that really shocks me that they, especially with the way Spain started off in the games. They started off 0-2. Spain comes back, they grab the bronze medal, and Australia's on the outside looking in, and this is a team that really did push the U.S. In the pool play. So I don't know. It's tough to say. 4 years is a really long time. Dante Exum is the guy that I follow closely, covering the Utah Jazz the way I do, and I got to see a lot more out of Dante Exum. We've only really watched him play for a single season. He's got a lot of speed. He's got a lot of length. His jump shot has got to improve, and he's got to prove that he can come back and play following a knee injury. So there's a lot of questions that I think could be answered in the next 4 years. And then, of course, Ben Simmons right now, he's got a lot of hype around him, rightfully so. A lot of scouts that I've talked to have said that he's one of the top players they've seen in quite some time. And, of course, he's garnered some comparisons to LeBron James. 4 years is a very long time. I think Spain's always going to be there. I'm really curious to see where Argentina is going to be at in 4 years. Australia is the team that is going to probably create the most excitement as far as going toe-to-toe with the U.S., also based on the fact that they pushed them in pool play this year. So a lot of fun storylines, I think, going into 2020, which is just so long from now. And again, we really have no idea who will be representing Team USA at that particular time as well.
All right. This is my idea on super teams. I want to know if you agree. They are great for the NBA because, one, they get to get it never lasts for a really, a 5 or 6 year period. I mean, it did for 4 years in Miami, but it's not going to be a 10-year thing where these super teams are together. You want to watch them every night for 1 year. They break up after a couple, and then you get other good teams out of it. Do you agree with that theory that that's the reason why super teams are good, or do you hate these super teams?
Super teams are good for the league. They're absolutely good for the league. I mean, when the Miami Heat first assembled back in, and again, they weren't even the first super team. To me, the original big three in the free agency period, a lot of people would bring up the Houston Rockets, and the first team that was successful was the Boston Celtics. And Danny Ainge made some beautiful moves in the offseason. He brought in Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen. Yeah, you can go ahead and make your argument for some teams before that, but let's be honest, that was one of the first summers where I think individual players realized, okay, this is a possibility. And again, Boston had instant success. They went straight to the NBA Finals, and they won that year. Super teams are good for the league. The year the Heat assembled, every game was can't-miss TV. You either loved the Miami Heat or you hated the Miami Heat. People in Utah were rooting for the Dallas Mavericks and Dirk Nowitzki in the NBA Finals as if Dirk Nowitzki played for the Utah Jazz. It was insane, and I think it was amplified because of social media once again, which is just taking things to another level. It's great for the league. You hit it right on the head. They typically don't last very long. The teams that have a problem with super squads are small market teams. Small market teams like Utah. Obviously, Oklahoma City is going to have a problem with it. Small market teams don't like to see this because realistically, they have no chance of this ever happening in their state. That's the problem in the eyes of some small market teams. I mean, Cleveland had a huge problem with super squads. Remember that when LeBron bolted and then the Lakers made that deal for Chris Paul and Dan Gilbert came out and was upset. You know, when are we going to change the other 28 teams in the league to the Washington Generals? When are we going to change their name? He doesn't have a problem with it now. Cleveland was in a unique situation because LeBron's a hometown kid. LeBron went home. And at that particular time, Cleveland had been moving in the right direction as far as rebuilding goes. And yeah, I'll go ahead and consider Cleveland, quote unquote, a small market team with quotations, however you want to view a small market. Go ahead, give them that label. But for the most part, that's the only fans that have a problem with super teams are those fans in small markets. And so, no, I think it's great for the league. I think Golden State's going to be can't-miss TV. It's odd that a team that did not win the NBA championship last year, that won 73 games, instantly becomes the most hated team in the league because of Kevin Durant. But I'll tell you what, every time the Golden State Warriors roll into a city this year, butts are going to be in the seats. And that's something that, again, you have to look at the business aspect of it. Arenas that aren't selling out will sell out when Golden State comes into town this year.
Well, Jordan, on that note, do you want to tell everybody where we can find you on Twitter, the internets, all that good stuff?
Yeah, sure. Jordan_DTS is my Twitter handle. You can listen to my show, Drive Time Sports, geared towards local, regional, and national sports, 7 days a week. It's at CastleCountryRadio.com. You can't miss the listen live link. There's, we have all kinds of great guests, national guests as well that will join us on the show. We're a Utah Jazz, Utah Ute, NASCAR affiliate. Again, that's CastleCountryRadio.com, and then Twitter handle, Jordan_DTS.
Awesome, Jordan. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Always a pleasure talking to you, and we'll have to do this again soon.
Yeah, anytime, Bob. I always look forward to joining you. Thank you for having me. Thanks for the invite.
Yep, no problem.